Good morning, Grizzlies. I'm Henry.
I'm Caleb.
So, just like you, we have been busy at the show. We've been doing a lot of work, working on a lot of projects that you will see later. However, we want to get back to our normal, regularly scheduled news show. But before we do, it's been a while, so we figured we'd ease you in by covering what we missed. All right? All right. So, as many of you know, Donald Trump won the election in November and is now the president of the United States. But even before he was president, the chaos had already started. So there were, I don't know if you guys knew this, but during the months of December to January, if you picked up your phone in the United States, you would get a push notification about the newest, craziest cabinet appointment that has been floated by Trump. Among these were alleged child molester Matt Gaetz, alleged adult molester Pete Hegseth, and confirmed brainworm haver and alleged anti-vaxxer RFK. So all of these, with the exception of Matt Gaetz, seem to be real possibilities for people who might end up controlling our country for the next 4 years. And then Inauguration Day came on the 20th, and that's when the floodgates were open, and chaos began to reign even more supreme. For starters, for trans people, I'm really sorry that this has been happening. But if you are trans in the United States, it is now the official position of the federal government that you are insane and crazy and not valid or recognized by the government, which means if you're trans, you can't get a passport which recognizes your gender identity. And if you do, you're probably not allowed to use it. And as we've moved on, there has been more and more executive orders or more and more internal memos, which has been leaked to the press because this thing is leakier than a boat made of Swiss cheese. For starters, there was the leaked memo, which said that federal funding for all federal programs would be cut, which would be disastrous. That means stuff like our school lunches or Medicaid, if you have a grandparent on Medicaid, or even FAFSA would go away essentially overnight. We would lose funding for all of those programs. Additionally, Donald Trump is now threatening or attempting to fire members of the FBI, which were a part of the investigation on him during the earlier parts of last year. The director of the FBI has been pushing back against this. So there's a bit of internal struggle there. Even just as recently as 2 days ago, the White House had a leaked memo where it said they are planning to fully eliminate the Department of Education, which we all go to school at a public school, and we don't really know what the disastrous effects of eliminating the Department of Education essentially overnight would be. That's a little bit of a scary thought for our teachers and staff. And then, of course, there was the trade war on Canada and Mexico, which are two of our closest allies. And I don't know if you guys know this. We'll be talking about sports anecdotally a little bit later. But during a game against the Minnesota Wild in Ottawa, the Canadians actually booed our national anthem. So we're definitely starting a lot of conflict with people that really we shouldn't be starting conflict with, including members of our own country. Donald Trump has been criticizing Gavin Newsom's handling of the California wildfires and has also dumped California water just to kind of spite them. It's clear that internal struggle and conflict is going to be a clear and defined part of these next 4 years. And speaking of those California wildfires, that's actually our next story. Sending it over to Caleb to cover that.
On January 7th, 2025, there were reports of wildfires in Los Angeles. Fueled by harsh winds and dry conditions, the fires have burned over 35,000 acres, destroyed over 16,000 buildings, and killed at least 29 people. Both the Palisades and Eaton fire are 96 and 99% contained. There is no clear start to the fires, but there are lawsuits pointing us to believe that it was due to heavy machinery. As we know right now, the fires are still burning, but they are contained. Let's hope that the brave men and women on the ground can put them out. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families that have lost their lives and their loved ones and their homes. Now over to Cody.
Thank you. As some people might know, the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, has died last December on the 29th. He was 100 years old. But as some people not know about him, he was the 76th governor of Georgia, and he became the 39th president. He served from 1977 to 1981. And after he was president, he served the rest of his life working for the community that he lived in, helping people that had a hard time. And he also, and he worked as president, and now now the country will honor Jimmy Carter by having the flags halfway. He also served in World War II and the Korean War. Now to Damien.
Hi, thank you, Cody. On December 3rd, South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol imposed martial law. Martial law being where the government took over control and suppressed the press. The media was banned, and anyone who was on strike from their jobs were forced to go back to work, effective immediately. According to Yoon, this was all to protect the liberal democracy and the safety of his people. Quoting Yoon specifically, he said, "I will rebuild and protect South Korea from the ruin and despair through martial law." But Yoon wasn't really favored in his country, for he only barely won the political race to the presidency and has been barely holding on to it since. Analysts say this move was a self-coup where Yoon tries to grip to his power. This luckily ended in his failure for Yoon, as it only lasted for 6 hours, where he was impeached on December 14th, losing his presidential status, and on January 3rd, a warrant for his arrest went out, which he did resist. In the end, he was arrested on January 15th, now being held at Seoul Detention Center, a South Korean prison. All right, on to Jesse's story.
Thanks, Damon. The Kansas City Chiefs have, for the third year in a row, attended the AFC Championship and are now competing in the Super Bowl. On February 9th, Kansas City will be met by the Philadelphia Eagles, led by MVP candidate Saquon Barkley. Saquon led the NFL in rushing yards with 2,005 in the regular season, and now Saquon is 30 yards from breaking Terrell Davis's record of the most rushing yards between regular season and playoffs of 2,476. The Chiefs are led by quarterback Patrick Mahomes and Hall of Fame coach Andy Reid. Mahomes has been criticized by NFL analysts all season long for baiting fouls and getting one-sided calls from NFL referees. This year's Super Bowl could make NFL history, as never before has a team won 3 Super Bowls in a row. The Chiefs have the first chance to do so by beating the Eagles 2 years ago. And now they're facing them once again. Best of luck to both teams, and I hope for the refs' sake they call the perfect game, because knowing Philly fans, it could be a bad day for them. Sending it over to Lily.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm Lily, and in not so breaking news, on December 4th, United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomas was shot and killed. CCTV footage showed a hooded figure around the area in a gray hoodie and backpack, shortly before Mr. Thomas emerged from the Midtown New York Hilton, where the shooter is waiting outside, before shooting the CEO 2 times. After the shooting, police found bullet casings with the words "deny, defend, and oppose" carved into them. Now, here's where it gets interesting, so start tuning back in. Alleged shooter was 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, who made the internet go wild with his crazy arrest and dashingly good looks. Luigi was arrested 5 days later, on December 9th, in a McDonald's after a cashier recognized and reported his description to the local police. Now, Luigi Mangione has pledged not guilty to the crimes he's been charged of, and his trial is set sometime in the soon foreseeable future. Until then, everything will be left up to your interpretation. And that's all I have for this recap. Sending it off to Bailey.
Thanks, Lily. Last year, on December 20th, Sonic 3, directed by Jeff Fowler, was released to theaters. The movie stars returning voice actor Ben Schwartz as Sonic and introduces Keanu Reeves as Shadow. Retired actor Jim Carrey has also returned, playing not one, but 2 of the main antagonists in the film. The movie had a budget of $122 million and made $447 million in the box office, producing the most out of any of the Sonic movies released so far. This movie won't be the last either, as the 4th movie is set to release in 2027. That's all on Sonic. Over to Camden.
Thank you, Bailey. On January 19th, it was announced that the Israeli government and Palestine's leading militia, Hamas, agreed upon a 3-phase ceasefire in the ravaged Gaza Strip. After many long months of war, the first phase of the ceasefire began. An immediate halt was placed on all attacks, and many hostages and prisoners were released from both sides. The second phase of the ceasefire, while still in the talks, is intended to focus on agreements on the release of the remaining hostages and the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Since October 7th of 2023, Israel and Hamas have been head-to-head in this vicious ordeal. During this time, I have been your loyal informer of all the things to know about this conflict. As the remaining movements in this ceasefire are discussed and executed, we will remain coverage of this situation for as long as it lasts. Now over to Will.
Elon Musk, what a scam. Elon and companies owned by him are engulfed in controversy as of late. Tesla, under Musk's leadership, has been accused of ignoring a subpoena from the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. A subpoena is a legal order requiring evidence or testimony in a legal proceeding from a party involved to be provided. The legal battle being fought between SEC and Musk involves how Tesla is accused of committing securities fraud. Musk has also faced criticism for undermining safety regulations at Tesla. Reports suggest safety measures were compromised for faster production, putting workers at risk, which obviously violates laws protecting employees. Tesla has been accused of using anti-union tactics. Musk's statements and policies have been criticized for discouraging union efforts, which is illegal as it is constitutionally encouraged for workers to unionize. Additionally, there are allegations of retaliation against employees who speak out. Workers have reported negative actions taken against them for raising concerns about safety and conditions. But enough about Elon's company. What about Elon himself? After acquiring Twitter, Musk faced criticism for withholding severance payments from former executives. Failing to provide severance pay violates contractual agreements and legal obligations. To top it all off, controversy erupted when Musk performed a Nazi salute at Donald Trump's inauguration, twice, stating, "My heart goes out to you," while performing the salute to the crowd. This action has, of course, caused extreme dismay around the planet. Numerous world leaders and groups have spoken out against this action, including the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, President of France, Emmanuel Macron, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Spanish Minister of Labor and Social Economy, Yolanda Diaz, and the President of the Jewish community in Munich and Upper Bavaria, Charlotte Knobloch. And that's just some of the more prominent figures who have condemned Musk's actions. Now to Karsten with news on Assad.
In late November 2024, Syrian opposition forces led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, launched a surprise offensive against the government of President Bashar al-Assad. Within days, they captured key cities including Aleppo and Hama, exploiting weaknesses in the regime's defenses. By early December, the rebels advanced towards Damascus, leading to the fall of the capital on December 8, 2024, and the subsequent flight of Assad to Moscow. This marked the end of the Assad family's 53-year rule over Syria. Following the regime's collapse, HTS leader Ahmed al-Sharaa was declared Syria's interim president. He announced plans for a political transition, including forming a temporary legislative council and organizing a national conference to establish an inclusive government and have elections anticipated within 4. Despite these developments, the country has faced ongoing challenges, notably a car bomb in Manbij in February 3rd, 2025, killing at least 20 people, underscoring the persistent instability and security issues in post-Assad Syria.
Thanks for watching, Grizzlies.
I've been Karsten.
I've been William.
This has been Barakallah Broadcast.